You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
I'm now joined in studio by Rob Walpole from Motivation Weight Management based in Gorey and Wexford Town. Good morning, Rob, and thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Karl. It's a pleasure.
Rob, you might start by telling me a bit about your own background, please.
Well, Karl, I was born in London. We moved back over to my mum and dad, originally Irish. We moved back over to Dublin when I was about 4 or 5. And we lived in Goatstown up until I was about 23, 24. I suppose then I started off my career as a cabinet maker. And that lasted, I suppose, 2 or 3 years. And I got made redundant. That was the first time I got made redundant, was then. And I took up a job as a security guard. And from there, believe it or not, HMV, my love was always music. And HMV came to Ireland. And I applied for a job as a security guard with HMV. But I suppose because of my background, because I had something about me, I lasted about a week to 10 days as a security guard, and then I was made head of the stockroom for HMV in Grafton Street. From there I moved on to being assistant manager for Henry Street, Grafton Street, and then managing both the stores here in Dublin. And then I was successful in Aberdeen, so obviously you get the promotion again, so I moved to a bigger store over in Glasgow. And then from Glasgow down to the Midlands region, as it was at the time, in charge of 22 stores, 350 staff, with a budget of 36 million sterling it was at the time. From then, with family and all the rest, we got a bit homesick and we wanted to educate our daughter back in Ireland again, so we moved back with HMV to Grafton Street. So I was the general manager of the Grafton Street store, and we had 100 staff there at the time, and I remember the euro conversion at the time. It was 17 million of a budget in euros for one store. But again, because I wanted to stay in Ireland, and obviously there wasn't much expansion with HMV in Ireland at the time compared to the UK, I got offered a job as the operations manager with Peter Mark, the hairdressing firm. So I worked for them for about 2 years and then decided, look, you know, I've always wanted to go out and do it myself. So I tried a management consultancy. This was obviously when times were really good and you could do management consultancy in cafes and back of cars and all the rest of it. So I did that for a while as well.
I know, Rob, that around that time when you started the management consultancy practice, you moved to Wexford. How did that come about? My daughter was getting to college age and she wanted to go to college in Dublin. We wanted a better, I suppose, quality of life down the country. We were kind of fed up with Dublin. We had an apartment at the time in Galloping Green, and we decided to sell that, and it was pure fluke, Karl. It was right at the top of the bubble, so, you know, fine. So we decided to build our own house in Wexford, which we always wanted to do. And I suppose then we were doing that awful commute from Wexford to Dublin, because Mary Ellen my wife was still working as a nurse in Luke's Hospital. So we used to do that commute every day. And obviously with that sort of a pattern of lifestyle, you were eating at irregular hours. It just wasn't conducive to a healthy lifestyle. And obviously the weight started to pile on then as well. Did you find it difficult to manage your weight throughout your life, or was it something that just happened around then?
No, it was always, as I've said to people before, I suppose ever since I was 15 years of age, I've been on some sort of a diet all the way through. So that's nearly, 35 years of doing either not eating, overeating, putting up weight, losing weight, and it was a constant battle the whole time. And this is not putting up 3 pounds, losing, this was like, losing 10 stone, putting up 12 stone. It was, seriously going to affect my life.
So your lifestyle now and your commuting and the type of work that you were doing increased that problem for you. It made it even worse. At what stage did you become, I suppose, at your maximum weight?
Yeah. I suppose with all of this, while I was commuting as well to Dublin, I was kind of looking after my mum and dad who were getting sicker and sicker, and it was those funny situations where no matter what you did, you couldn't fix them even though you wanted to.
and it grates on you as a person, and that's about the lifestyle I was leading. So, as I say to people as well, if you'd have seen me through all of this time, you wouldn't have seen me eating lots at any one particular time. But if you put on £1 a month for a year, suddenly you have a stone on. If you do that over 10 years, suddenly you're 10 stone heavier than you were 10 years ago. And that's the way the weight crept up. And I suppose one of the evenings we heard on the radio on the way home, Dr. Maurice Larocque, who's a Canadian bariatrician, he's probably one of the most senior people on weight management in the world. And he talked for 15 minutes and he never mentioned diet once. And I thought, look, I have to find out what this guy is all about. I'd never heard of anything like that in my life before. So I started to make some inquiries, and it was motivation weight management. So what I did then at the time was I joined the clinic in the Beacon in Dublin. Actually, I remember the first time I went to motivation as well, that the scales wouldn't actually weigh me, and the scales goes up to 38 stone. The second week, I was 36 stone 4 pounds, and that's, it's a shock, because obviously none of the scales you have at home will weigh anything over 22 stone. So it was the rock bottom moment, if you like. But I suppose before that, what drove me as well to go to motivation was my dad's funeral. When he died, all the mourners wanted to obviously sympathise with me and shake my hand, but because of the weight I was carrying, I used to think that my back was going to snap in half, and I had to go and sit in the car, and all the people thought I'd gone home. So I couldn't actually, sympathise and accept people's sympathies at my dad's funeral. So that was the rock bottom moment for me.
So Rob, what's motivation weight management all about?
I suppose there's three areas that we look at as well. It's not what you eat, it's why you eat that everyone has the problem. It's about changing your habits and lifestyle. And it's about, we help people then look at attitudes and behaviours towards food, and a bit about life as well. That's in a nutshell what we do.
Rob, what experience and qualifications and background have your staff got to be in a position to advise people on weight management?
Well, I suppose, Karl, the one for me was when I went to motivation first, is that the people who were advising me were actually have gone through the programme themselves and understood everything about the programme, how you're feeling, your ups, your downs, when you have a bad week, when you have a slip, because you're going to have them. So what we have done the same thing in our clinics is that everyone that is, all our advisors have actually gone through the programme and can advise people again on where the slips, the pitfalls, everything like that. So we don't have, a load of stick insects advising people on, exercise more, eat less, because that doesn't work for people.
So typically, what type of advice are you giving people? Well,
again, there's 3 or 4 different areas that we look at. We can give the food advice, which is what we always say is it's eating regular, no more than, 4 hours without a source of protein, which would be, fish, chicken, beans, that type of stuff. We also do from the habits, because as someone pointed out to me the other week, if you had a fly on the wall documentary at 9 o'clock in every house in Ireland, the news comes on, and the kettle goes on in every house. People then have tea and something to eat, not because they're hungry, but because we have done this, because your granny did it, your mother did it, and every house does the same thing. We advise people on portion sizes. Another thing we look at then as well, and they're all practical little things, is something like leaving some food on your plate. Not because the piece of food will help you lose weight, but it's who's in control, you or the food. And that's a key thing for the way we help people manage attitudes and behaviours towards, like I say, life and food as well. When people eat, if they don't eat at regular times, why don't they eat at regular times? Why do they eat just because everyone else is eating? It can't be because they're hungry if they're only after having a meal a couple of hours beforehand.
As you sit across from me here today, Rob, you're 15.5 stone. You're 23 stone lighter than what you were a number of years ago. How different is your life today because of that?
It's unbelievable, Karl, because I suppose the best way to describe it is, to walk into your studio here, I suppose, is 20, 30 yards from the corridor or whatever it is. I couldn't have done that when I was that weight without having to sit down because, again, like I said, my back I thought it was going to snap in half with the amount of weight it was carrying. So for me, it's life-changing. I can do anything, literally anything I want now, whereas before I couldn't do that.
Rob, have you noticed much of a change in energy levels?
Absolutely. Again, what it's done for me is I can do anything I want now. Anything I choose to do. I exercise for 20 to 30 minutes a day because I want to do it. It makes me feel good, not because I have to. I can go out, do what I want, go for a meal, go for a walk, anything I want to do. Whereas before, I didn't go out, I wouldn't go for a meal, and you're living this, a shut-ins existence, basically.
Rob, you bought the franchise for County Wexford for Motivation Weight Management back in April of last year. You opened your first clinic in Gorey and then your second one in Wexford Town. How have they been going for you since?
Exceptionally well, and they really have, both of them, because initially we were only going to open one clinic, but because they've been so successful, we've opened the second clinic.
How supportive have the banks been in relation to the project?
Well, again, you see, we actually did things by the book because of, the grounding I've had in my business is to present things the way you want to do it, what you expect from a bank, what you're going to do with the loan. And we got the bank loan 2 years ago.
And tell me, what's the secret behind the success of the business to date? Obesity is a major issue and weight management is a major issue across the country. But what have you done to be able to bring the level of clients up to the level they're at today in such a short period of time?
Well, I think it's utilising, the services that are out there. Like, we're a member of the Gorey Chamber, we're a member of the Wexford Chamber. The networking that both the chambers do is vital for us because, again, it's an old cliche. You look after your clients, your customers, they will refer people to you, and that's the biggest source of referrals we have. We also do, we believe that advertising is important, and we advertise on radio and in press. We do things like specifically targeting areas where weight management is an issue. And some of the ones you might think, and Karl, and some of these things, what's the point in doing it? But stuff like the GAA, jockeys, that sort of thing, boxing, these are all guys that weight is an issue, and what we can do is help them manage it in a proper fashion and not this crash dieting all the time.
Rob, I suppose we've all heard stories where people have gone out there, let's say before weddings and that, and have lost 3, 4 and 5 stone in a short period of time. But I think probably the biggest area of concern for people is how they maintain that weight loss. What are your thoughts on that?
And again, that's what we do, Karl. The losing of the weight is only part of it. Well, our programme, we have a maintenance programme where people will come back to us once a month. Maintenance is a key part of our programme. We have a maintenance programme where people will come back once a month, not just to weigh in, but just to make sure that no bad habits are creeping back in. Because we have a questionnaire that they do, what we call as the mental weight analysis, which is about 50 questions designed to make sure that people are in control of habits, lifestyle, attitudes and behaviours and that sort of thing. And that's what works, and that's what keeps it off.
From your experience and from the trends that have been coming through your door in terms of age profile and that, who are your typical customers today?
I suppose that it is hard to pinpoint it down because we get, females, males. I suppose the 35 plus age group would be the key one for us. And we did see a trend of more females to males, but from what we're seeing now is that the guys are actually coming in. And I think because they're not afraid to ask for help anymore, whereas I think in the past I was certainly like that. You should be sorting it out yourself. I'll sort it tomorrow. Typical guy response, I'll do it myself. And then you're showing weakness if you ask for help. And I think people have gotten over that barrier now, which is great.
What would be the main reasons why people have actually found your front door? What's the lowest point that they've come to? What has driven them to contact you in the first place?
Normally, I suppose what we have is people have tried everything. They've tried it themselves. They've tried a few other, different programs, and again have lost the weight on it, but again can't keep it off. An awful lot of it is health, where we get referrals from GPs. A lot of referrals from GPs because people again are more health conscious now and want to make the proper choices and believe that it's the right thing to do.
There's also the self-esteem point of it as well. People have very, very low self-esteem. I know I did when I was that size, because again, you're living that life of, oh, I don't want to do this. I'd sooner sit at home in tracksuit bottoms rather than just put on, a fresh, suit of clothes and go out and have a meal with friends, because you don't feel comfortable doing it. And that, has a serious effect on your own self-esteem.
I know, Rob, that through your own clinics you have lots and lots of examples of people that this has actually worked for in helping them lose weight and maintain that weight loss. But tell me about some of the situations where it hasn't worked and why.
Believe it or not, Karl, this programme doesn't work unless you want to do it for yourself. And believe it or not, we've had, guys, girls, come in saying, the wife is making me do it, the husband's making me do it, the kids are making me do it, the mother is making me do it. And it doesn't work for them, because we're all like children. If a child is forced or cajoled into doing something, they won't do it. And we all have that inside us. And if we feel that, it just doesn't work for us.
Rob, what do you see to be the major challenges facing your business in the years ahead?
I suppose it's the same thing, Karl, is that people still find it hard to ask for help. I know it's changing. It's that mindset of, I can do this myself, I'll be all right. And they can't. They do need help to change that mindset. And weight is not, as we keep saying, it's not what you eat, it's why you eat that everyone has the problem. Weight is not something that you can exercise more and eat less, because if it was that easy, people would have sorted that a long time ago.
How about the current economic climate? If that continues to tumble, do you think that's going to have much of an effect on your business?
Again, you see, with people's spending power, if a spending power goes down in a family, it has an effect on every single business, because they are not out there spending money, or they will perceive something as being less important than something else. And that's when it comes down to, are we doing enough to get it out there that we are here to help people, and the choices they will make with us will actually save them money and save them health in the long run.
And in relation to the HSE, have you had much lobbying with them in relation to maybe providing funding for people that are suffering from obesity with a view to making them healthy again?
It's something that we're looking at as we do, as a franchise. We lobby government and all the departments, and that's something we take on board and do on a regular basis as well.
What's the feedback from the HSE like in relation to that?
Well, frankly, the HSE, their budgets are dwindling at the moment, Karl, so I wouldn't hold, any hope out on that score just at the minute.
And finally, Rob, I'd like to focus on the future plans that you have for growing the business across the county. What are they?
Well, I suppose our short-term goal is to open a third clinic within the next 6 months. I suppose the medium-term goal, and after that, would be another couple of clinics, and our long-term goal is to get a master franchise for, be it Ireland or some other country as well, because that's how strong I feel about the business. I know the business plans that we do and the structure we have will support that in any other country. So from our point of view, we're going to take this as far as we can.
Well, Rob, it's certainly been a very inspirational story. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for coming in and joining us this morning, and I wish you continued success with growing Motivation Weight Management.
You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.